Namaskar, good afternoon. Welcome to the South Asian Online Literary Conference jointly organized by Sahitya Akademi and Foundation of SAARC Writer and Literature. This conference was inaugurated on 6th October 2021 and today is the last day of the festival. And this is the 23rd session of interviews. We have with us Mr. Farooq Suman and Dr. Ashraf Zevel from Bangladesh and Mr. K. Jay Kumar and Mr. Anand Kumar from India and Ms. Sohana Manjoor and Arifat Monin. Without any delay, I may request Mr. Farooq Suman and Mr. Ashraf Zevel to continue the conversation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Devendra Kumar. Ladies and
Dr.
gentlemen.
Ashraf Zevel, please unmute yourself.
I can hear actually, but I was unmute. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Now it is okay.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Devendra Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, good noon to all. Welcome to the South Asian Online Literature Conference, jointly organized by Sahitya Akademi and Foundation of SAARC Writers and Literature FOSWAL. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to respected President of Foundation of SAARC Writers and Literature, Dr. Ajit Kaur, Madam. You know, this conference is being organized from 6th October to 9th October 2021, and this is the 23rd session. Respected all, now I would like to introduce myself. This is Farooq Suman from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I am used to write poems and essays. So far, I have published 3 books of poetry, 3 essays, and a travelogue. At present time, I am working as the editor of Bangla and Shobha. Well, today I am feeling privileged to have such an amazing interview and conversational session with one of the well-known poet and story writer of Bangladesh, Mr. Ashraf Zevel.
Thank you, Mr. Farooq Suman, for introducing me in such a generous way.
Okay. Dear all, now we will talk to Mr. Ashraf Zevel. Let's get to know him briefly. Ashraf Zevel is a new generation writer of Bangladesh. He is a poet, short story writer, and a novelist as well. Nowadays, he is writing regularly in good number of prestigious literary magazines of country and abroad. His maiden collection of short story, রাষ্ট্র ধারণার বিরুদ্ধে মামলা ও বিবিধ গল্প, cases and stories against the concept of the state, has been awarded with Jamcon Young Literary Award 2017. 3 poetry books has been published so far. যুদ্ধ ছাড়া শুদ্ধতা অসম্ভব, Purity is Impossible Without War 2014, অতীতা দুঃখরা পাখি হয়ে গেল, অতীতা sorrow became bird 2015, and অনুজ্জ্বল চোখের রাত, Night with Dimmed Eye 2016. He has attained different literature program in Bangladesh and abroad. He attended in SAARC Literature Festival 2017 as an invited delegate and presented his literary work, Poetry Fighting Against Terrorism, which was highly appreciated. He was also awarded with Itikotha Muitri Sahitya Sammanana 1424 from Kolkata, India. Ashraf Joel is working as the editor of Purbo Porchim. Okay, Mr. Ashraf Joel, hope you are good and in health. At first,
Yeah.
I would like to know the story of the beginning of your writing.
Thank you, Mr. Farooq Shumon. Before starting my discussion, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for a good state of health. And though she is, we cannot express that she is 85 years old, but still she is young because she is doing relentlessly, with the FOSWAL, and not only FOSWAL, but also the literary awareness. I think I can say it's a fight through literature, to the area, especially South Asian area, but also in Asia and all over the globe. So, Maji, I think you are fine, and please take my respect. And another honorable guest is here, Mr. Anan Kumarji. He's like my teacher because I know I came to learn a lot of things from him, and especially again Sahitya Akademi, who is collaborating with FOSWAL to do a very successful program, because we went through the last couple of programs, and it is nicely organized by Sahitya Akademi. So, Mr. Farooq Shumon, your question was actually what was the inspiration to become a writer? So, first of all, actually, I am a reader. First of all, from my childhood to till date, I am a reader. I like to read a lot of literature, especially literature, poetry, prose, essays, the novel, and a lot of things. Actually, whatever is available in front of mine, I'd like to read them. So first of all, I am a writer, but again, official writing has been started since my collegehood when I was in class 11. That time, actually, a lot of literature. I was in touch with some great people in my college, in actually my divisional city, Rajshahi. There are some people who are inspired me to become a writer. And but that time I just wrote my poetry, especially not the short story, and I just keep in it my diary because I was very much busy with my academic actually reading. That is why. But when I came to Dhaka, actually it was in the year 2012 or 11. I just regularly I just used to write poem, short story, and these are published in different literature work, like in a daily and little magazine. So that was the history. But yeah, again, the inspiration was, it was not like that I would like to be a writer, but some things continuously actually bleed in my mind whenever I saw anything wrong with the general people, anything wrong with the environment, anything wrong with the nature, actually it bleeds me. So that is why I think it is the mostly the main inspiration of my to become a writer. I think I myself, I clear you that what was the inspiration to become a writer.
Very nice, thank you. Ashraf Joel, when a poet is also a story writer, what can be the effect of his story?
Yeah, it's a very nice question, and I think it's a common question for a person who is writing poet and story or novel. So yeah, and we know I have written a lot of world literature, and some short story or novel has, there is some reflections of poetry. But for myself, actually, yeah, I didn't actually separate my poetry and short story or novel, because anything in my mind I just want to express. And there is a allegation, I think, say that a lot of people said that in your story there is a influences of poetry. But again, this has been highly appreciated with some critics that okay, it's very difficult to make in the same writing, like there is a touch of poetry, and there is touch of essay. So I consciously actually did it, and in future I hopefully I will do it, because I enjoyed it in such a way when I write my short story, and I just give a very small touch of flavor of poetry in my short story, but it is consciously, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I think it's my specialty of my writing, I can say.
Oh, fine, fine, fantastic. My another question. I know one of your storybooks is called রাষ্ট্র ধারণার বিরুদ্ধে মামলা ও বিবিধ গল্প, cases and stories against the concept of the state, where contemporary reality has manifested itself. Is there any special reason behind writing such a factual
Yeah,
book?
actually, there is a specific region. I will express these things, but before that, I am believe in the concept of home motherland. I'm very much oriented with the motherland. That means Swadesh, of what we are saying in Bengali, Desh. Rather, when Rastro, because country, when it's become, it's like a structured, and with this the help of the structure of a country concept, a lot more people are sufferer. Especially, I can say that Ajit Kaur Mamji here, she lost her country. She lost her motherland. Actually, not country. Now she's a citizen of a country, but she lost her motherland at her very golden age. And in front of her motherland divided with a very like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. So continue. She is bleeding, I think, and a lot more people are bleeding in such a way. My father was a citizen of a country, then he got a new country. My grandfather was he had three nationality. He was Indian, then he became Pakistani, and then he became Bangladeshi. But the nature around him, his soil, no one can divide it. But the problem is that the concept of country in the modern country, actually, in that way, actually, the people, general people, have been ruled in the political viewpoint of view. But the main concept of my book was actually in the year 2016 in Bangladesh, there was a huge political violence. I think you can recall it and you can remember it. My mother was a sufferer. Uh, when she just want to travel from my homeland to Dhaka, because my younger son, was so sick. So in that horrible situation, she just want to come to Dhaka because her grandson was ill. But in the way, she just attacked by the political the people who make the violence, and they have just thrown a bomb to her bus, and her face was burned, her left limb was burned. My mother was she was totally a very much active person, because her face was just burnt over here, and then the contracture, her lips and her upper limb, and including hand. So that time, actually, I just think actually what the politicians are doing with us. They are just playing with us, and with a uh, very, I think it's unfair way. So I just stuck in that situation, and in that time, not only my mother, but a lot of people actually were sufferer. I think I can remember the more than 100 people was killed at the time, and thousands of people become handicapped. So that was the main inspiration to, because I think you have went through my books, and all the story actually expresses the sufferings of general people in different way, not only in political way, but in different way. So that was the reason behind my books, and that book has been appreciated in home and abroad, and it has been awarded. So I think that was the story to write, because after writing of this book, a lot more people, I think, from different department from government have asked me why you have keep a name like that. Is there anything against the state? So I said, please go through my book and you will find your answer. I will not say anything. So that issue also already settled. So that was the story of my book actually. Thank you, Mr. Farooq Shuman, for
Uh,
asking this. I think a question because it's. I think it's a very good question for me.
Nicely said. Thank you very much. Too. As a writer, what's your opinion about contemporary Bengali poetry and story?
Not only contemporary, but Bengali literature is a very rich literature, and it's now the eighth, position. If I said that the people who are talking in Bengali, it's in according across the globe, it's I think eighth position. So a lot of people are they are talking in Bengali, and of course a lot of great writers from Bengali literature are there, but only. Rabindranath Tagore got the an award, but the contemporary writer, I just went through almost all contemporary writer of our time, but I saw there is a lot more. The world is growing very much fast in terms of everything actually. So the writings is also changing. The poetry, the nature of poetry, they have presenting their poetry in a very different way. So yeah, there is good changes. I think I can say it a very positive changes among the young writers, especially. So yeah, I can say that yeah, I'm very much hopeful with our literature, what we are practicing in Bengali, as well as the young generations or young writers of South Asian. I met through FOSWAL and through this program, I have met a lot of young generations of South Asian. I saw they are doing actually good. So it's I think I can say that yeah, the literature is moving towards a positive side.
Okay, thank you. Now I want to talk in a different context. Foundation of SAARC Writers and Literature FOSWAL has been organizing such a literary conference for a long time. What's your assessment of this event in the development of art literature among the SAARC countries?
Thank you, Mr. Farooq Shuman. It was also a very time-worthy and very good question to answer actually. First of all, means Ajit Kaur actually. She is doing a tremendous work over the years, not only 2, 5, 10 years, but also more than 40 years. And she is organizing more than 100 successful events like South Asian Literature Festival. Actually, what she just made a very positive way of communicating from one language to another language, from one nation to another nation. So it makes actually I think I can say it's a very history just make a unique like it's a unique South Asian literature. All different languages are there, different especially in India, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. A lot of languages are there, but what she just did, she is like an umbrella, and we are in under this umbrella, and we are just feel very much comfortable that yeah, I'm the part of this event that yeah, she did. First of all, especially did in the people's like me. I am just using to write in Bengali, and I know only the Bengali people. But through the literature, I was very little bit aware about the literature of Hindi language, Malayalam or Bhutanese, Nepalese, Sri Lankan or Afghanistan. But first of all, what did they just unite all the people together. So this is something very, very significant for me. It's an amazing work, and I think time will already recognize her contribution. But in future, she will be remembered for her remarkable work to unite the nations, not only the literary people, but to unite the nations of South Asia. And I just appreciate her good health, and will be with the focus all for sure for a lifetime. Thank you, Mr. Farooq Sharma.
Thank you. Mr. Ashraf Joel, we know the Nobel Prize was announced a few days ago. This year's Nobel Prize in Literature 2021 has been awarded to Tanzanian writer Abdul Razak Gurnah. What's your assessment of the Nobel Prize?
Across the globe, actually, the writer people, especially, are very much interested to actually know who is the Nobel laureate in literature every year. So, like every year, we are also waiting who will be the winner. Every time there is a short list, and we thought that this year our this writer will be awarded. But this time, Tanzanian writer awarded because I am very much I just uh, say that it's a very good positive thing for us who are practicing literature from different part of the world. But the thing is that uh, Mr. Abdul actually used to write in English, and he shifted from Tanzania to England at the age of 23, and he is just practicing his writing in English since last 36 years. So, what is my assessment in that issue? That for us, especially who are practicing in Bengali and different language, there should be a very good translator. Nowadays, what we are seeing in, especially in Bengali language, the translation is something very, so not so many people are involved with the translation, but without proper translation of our work, it will be very difficult for us to reach the international audience. So yeah, I just congratulate him through this program for achieving his remarkable Nobel Prize. And actually, prize is not writers is writing for him, actually, not for the prize. But again, the recognition is something very good because a lot more people will learn his literature. Mr. Abdul, I think, wrote 10 novel and I think 32 or 36 short story. But his work was remarkable because he just used to write about the migrant people. He just expressed the pain of the migrant people. So, and nowadays, actually, a lot more people, from Bangladesh, a lot more people are trying to migrate illegally. Though a significant number of people are migrating from Bangladesh to any country, but I know that a lot more people are migrating illegally, and they are the sufferer, actually. So Mr. Abdul just wrote in his way his experiences, and I think fantastic. Though I am not so much familiar with his writings, but for sure I will go through his writings.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf and Mr. Farooq Somanji. Now it is time.
Yes, our allotted time almost.
Kumar will be in conversation with Mr. Anan Kumar.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it's nice to be part of the SAARC Literary Festival, even if it is online. I can find my very dear Ajit Kaurji. I have not met her for a while after I left Delhi. She had taken us to Maldives a few years ago for a SAARC Literary Festival when, in good old days where people were not wearing masks and all that, I still recall. Anyway, that is beside the point. I would like to be very clear on one thing. How much time have we got? Because there is one more session, I suppose. And how much time can both me and Anan Kumar take? 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I think the Sahitya Akademi representative should clarify that so that we can modulate. We are speakers, we can go on talking for hours. Tell me.
10 minutes will be fine.
For both of us, for both Anan Kumar and me put together, 10 minutes, fine. Because there is somebody else also to come on this program. Okay. Now, without much more pleasantries, Ajit Kaurji, I'll catch up with you later, not on this program. Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'm happy to be proud of this event, even if it is on the online mode, because online mode is the only alternative that we can think about today. And my pleasant task is to introduce Dr. Anan Kumar, the author of the unique novel Flight of the Swans, which we'll be discussing. I'll be as brief as possible because I would like to give more time to Anan Kumar, not to me. Dr. Anan Kumar himself is a unique writer. not only his novel, but he himself is a very unique person and a unique writer. A medical doctor by profession, he spent a distinguished teaching career at the All India Medical Science Institute of All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. That, however, is only one part of his very rich persona. He lives and works in the dream city of Pondicherry, and he is a philosopher, poet, and fiction writer. Sri Aurobindo is a conspicuous influence on his thoughts and life. He has read his poetry extensively in literary festivals and poetry meets. And he writes very crisp poetry. This is not the time to comment about that. Poetry for its crispiness and its evocative value. When poets write novels, we have a problem because poetry tries to condense, whereas novels cannot condense. Novel will be very stupid if you condense too much. Novel has to be exhaustive. It has to elaborate. Anyway, you have sort of mastered the craft of both poetry and fiction. Flight of the Swans is a modern novel. It's an extraordinary work. It is a maiden novel, but it's an extraordinary work. It is a saga of love, lust, incest, atonement, and spirituality. Set in the 19th century England, in 19th century, the narrative moves between England and India and Nepal. It is a story of 4 generations and writers and intellectuals like Oscar Wilde and all these people get into the narrative very swiftly. Hamsa, the protagonist of the novel, she was born out of a rape by an English soldier. And in the author's note, Anan Kumarji writes about Hamsa. She was a rebel who attacked the Puritans. She was determined to exhaust their senses and her own. The narrative is essentially an encounter between the East and the West. Now, I do not want to elaborate on the novel, but I can only tell that this is an extraordinary novel. You'll have to read and to understand it, but I will just pose a question to the author. As a reader in 2021, what is the significance of a novel like this, set in 19th century and early 20th century, and set in India and England and all that, and when India was not even an independent country? What is the significance? What is the purpose of this novel, which is being written in the 21st century? Could you elaborate on that and take on from there? If you have time, I'll ask you a couple of more questions. On to you, Dr. Anan Kumar.
Yeah. So first of all, I thank Ajit ji for this opportunity, and but I'll not take much time. And Jay Kumarji is a very well-known person. He's a very famous lyric writer in Malayalam movies, and not only that, he was an IAS officer, and he rose up to the position of the Chief Secretary of Kerala. And of course, his new book Simplicity is receiving very high acclaim from environmentalists and the people who like to read self-help books. And having said that, now I'll answer that. You know that things do not occur, you know, the fiction writing or any kind of creative writing does not follow a plan or a pattern. It is some kind of occult phenomenon that, you know, some kind of thing seizes you. And as I have, you know, written in my author's note also, that once I went to a ghost town in Kumaon Hills, and then I came to know about a character called Hansa, and then the story began. You know, actually that imagination seized me, and I was under the grip of that. And then, you know, Hansa drew characters from Nepal, Kumaon, Rajasthan, and England. And, you know, she had 3 lovers. And this is how, you know, the story was built. People started coming in and, you know, moving together, and a novel was woven. And I must tell you that this is my first work in literature. And it was completed in 2008, but published in 2021 for various reasons. And this work, even before writing poetry, I did this work, and it's very lyrical because the two characters, which are very important characters, they're alter egos actually, not those characters, but they're alter egos. Neil, he represents Sri Aurobindo, and Oscar Wilde is represented by Lord Grey. Both were very great poets and great, philosophers. So naturally, often in certain situations, they would talk, in lyrics, in poetry. So, this is how my poetry also began, and which later on was published in my different books of poetry. And so my poetry began from actually this novel. And so this is how I began writing my novel. And well, it's because I believe in art for art's sake. There is an old debate about the art for art's sake and social responsibility of the art. So personally, I am for art's sake. I'll not go into the discussion of the other parts. But of course, whatever you do, social responsibility always comes. And some kind of, when you deal with these kind of characters, then, and whenever it is a novel, then, the existential problems of life, fears, misery, and joy, all of them, they come in between. And you will find that the protagonist moves through different streams of Vedanta till he discovers the Sri Aurobindo's Vedanta. And those days, caste system was very important. So it is now. So even now, it's quite relevant, and there is a big discussion on the caste system, the origin of it, and how valid it was even 100 years ago, and even today it's valid. So that is, when we talk about the history or anything that it was in past, actually it is all a continuum. So history is not actually really very away from the present. And so this is what I'd like to...
Okay, now that, could you also comment on the title, that is the name Swan, that is Hamsa. Hamsa is a very philosophical term. It's a philosophically loaded name.
Yeah.
And how do you explain? Because the character, the lady, the heroine, is not doing, if I may say, very sacred things in her life. But you have called her Hamsa. And I think there is an undercurrent of encounter between what is sin, what is pure, and all these things. Our definitions of good things and bad things, or socially conditioned good things and bad things, love, desire, lust, all these things are interrogated in your novel. And how do you sort of justify or find the significance of the term Hamsa for the hero?
That all of us, when we come to the soul, we are very pure. Soul is not, affected by any external circumstances. It is the mind, other parts of the body which are affected. And actually, in actual fact, when I went there, certain friends told me about this lady. It was her real name. There's a lady by the name of Hansa who existed in that area, and she was known for her beauty. And actually, it began from a real story, and then how it actually moved on. So all of us are, Hansa is a Sanskrit word for soul. So all of us are Hansas, but those who realize their Hansahood. So all of us are the souls in flight. We are going somewhere. Some know where, some do not know where are they going. They're just drifting. And so that is the origin of the word, Hansa.
Yeah, because Tagore in Gitanjali's final verse says, like a flock of homesick cranes flying back night and day to their mountain nest. Let my whole life take its in one adoration to thee, that kind of salutation to thee. Like, our souls are taking flight. It's eternal flight to the great soul, to the Paramatma. Anyway, now one last question, as we don't have time. You see her son, Martin Thompson. You end up by saying that, of course, he was a journalist who worked in Delhi, and he went back to London and he died in Martin Thompson, but you also add this point that he was also and Aurobindo, he came to Aurobindo Ashram, and you bring him to Aurobindo Ashram. You see, that is it's actually a giveaway. You have anything of yourself. Is the author has to got anything with this character Martin Thompson? Otherwise, why should you drag him to Aurobindo Ashram? Because Aurobindo himself, you have disguised as Neil Madhav and all that. Here you have actually brought him to Aurobindo Ashram. Why?
You know, that was a much later introduction. And in Aurobindo Ashram, whenever you talk of all these people, you know, a lot of people are there in Aurobindo Ashram who have come from the West. They have lived there and they keep going and spreading these ideals. So this Martin Thompson is a fictional character. And as you asked, he's also a fictional character. And as you asked, but I have tried to make him real. So, you know, to make him real, I have to put it, you know, in a very real situation, which gels with the novel.
You juxtapose with the imaginary with the real. Okay.
And his character gels. And as you asked about my character, and then I tell you that I am present in every character because everything has emanated from me. So each character represents me and I am in every character. So they are in me and I am in them.
I think we have time only to go thus far. People who are fascinated by the novel should definitely read it. It's a wonderful novel. So please read it. It will not disappoint you. It has greater depths and far more greater depths than we could sort of discuss in this very brief interaction. Thank you very much, Dr. Anan Kumar and all other representative. Ajit Kaurji, we'll meet soon. Right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
So should we continue?
Please continue.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, namaste, salam. Thank you for inviting us to today's program of South Asian Online Literary Conference. It's a wonderful opportunity indeed, and my special thanks to Ajit Kaur ma'am, who kindly accommodated us. I'm grateful to FOSWAL and Sahitya Akademi. I'm Dr. Sohana Manzoor. I'm an associate professor of English, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. I also am the literary editor of the Daily Star. I have with me Mr. Rifat Munim, the writer, translator, and the literary editor of Dhaka Tribune. We thought of sharing tips and bits about the literary scenario in Bangladesh, but since the time is short, our focus will be on translating Bangladeshi literature, scope, possibilities, and problems. Most of it is based on our very own experiences and observations. And I must admit, though, that even though a writer and translator myself, I'm primarily an academic. Rifat's experience in this field is wider and vaster than mine. So at this point, I would like to ask Rifat Munim to address our audience to share his thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sohana Manzoor, Appa. And thanks to the organizers as well. Yeah, I think there is a lot to discuss about English writing from Bangladesh and also about translation. So due to time constraint, we have decided, Sohana Manzoor and I have decided to focus on the translation scene of Bangladesh, translation of Bangladeshi Bengali writing into English. So what I'd like to begin with is when I started my career in 2009, and when since the very beginning of my career, I was involved with translation of Bengali literature because the Bengali writing that comes from Bangladesh stands on its own right and is very rich. But back then, there was not to say much about the translation scene. When I had started in 2009, there were only 2 books. There were quite a few good translations of classic Bengali literature. But when it comes to translating contemporary Bangladeshi Bengali writing, I think there were only 2 books to talk about. One was Nasrin Jahan's Purukku, which was translated by acclaimed Bangladeshi poet Kaiser Haq. It was published by Penguin India. And the title of the translation was The Woman Who Flew. And there was another fantastic translation of Mahmudul Haq's Kalo Boro. Kalo Boro is a book about partition, how the 1947 partition of India had devastating effects of people coming from West Bengal to this part of Bengal. Back then it was East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. So it was translated by a very good Bangladeshi writer who writes in English. His name is Mahmud Rahman. And the title of that translation was Black Ice. It's a great book and which should be read by all South Asian readers. But now the translation scene has changed for the better. Now we have many translators working in this field, and more and more books are being translated. And not only people from Kaiser Haq's generation. Kaiser Haq I think, is our first generation writer and translator. And Kaiser Haq has appeared in many of these conferences that Ajit Kaurji has been organizing for decades. And I'm sure that Ajit Kaurji knows Kaiser Haq very well. So translators and writers from his generation have come up and are doing fantastic translations. And translators from later generations are also coming up. And Bangladeshi literature has also been successful in attracting some fabulous translators from India, like Arunabha Sinha, and then there is V. Ramaswamy. V. Ramaswamy has translated Manoranjan Bapari and Shubhimal Mishra, and now he's translating many Bangladeshi writers, like Shahidul Jahid. And he has also, Ramaswamy has also acquired the rights for translating Shaukat Ali's books. And he's also translating some young Bangladeshi writers like Mushiul Alam and Shahadul Jaman. So, and Arunabha Sinha has translated, I think, which happens to be Bangladesh's biggest novel, the greatest Bangladeshi novel, which is called Khwab-Nama. And in English translation, it appears as Khwab-Nama, which in English means the Tales of Dreams. And it is another book which revolves around the Indian partition and how the Indian partition, the 1947 partition of India had so many cultural and political effects on on people of Bangladesh. So it's another great book. Anyway, so but there is still more to be done. But the biggest problem that I see existing in this area is that Bangladeshi translators are coming up, young Bangladeshi translators, but they are not very well connected to literary agents. What happens is when a young translator emerges in India, he finds or she finds connected, or it is easy for them to be connected with literary agents and famous publishers based in India or based in perhaps UK and USA. But our translators have some sort of problems there. We have a lot of good translators coming up now, but we are not very well connected to literary agents and publishers. But thanks to some international literary festivals, things are changing, but I think there is still more to be done in this area. So if we still have a few more minutes, I'll speak more about this. Now I'll pass the mantle on to Shohana Manzoor again. I'm sure she herself has a lot to say about this.
Well, like I said before, right, my idea, like the way I look at it, is more from an editor's perspective. Like if you are more into like publishing, I think you have more connection with writers, you know, but I mainly work through this as a translator myself, and also as an editor of a newspaper. And Rifat Munim has addressed the possibilities, the good things, but somehow it seems that we also have to talk a little bit about the weaknesses, the problems. And one problem that we are facing is I myself feel that there needs to be more training of sorts, like actually how to translate, because I see that there are two things that I see when I get translations for publication. One is that either the language, there is a gap in language when it translates from Bangla into English. Somehow the translations are not so good, or it doesn't really translate or make sense in English when it is translated from Bangla. So that is one problem I face. And sometimes I see that, sometimes the meanings are changed so much, and, I am at a dilemma, like what to do with it. So that is one thing. So I often feel that, and I also see that the younger generation is coming up, like Rifat Munim mentioned, that they would like to translate, but they need guidance. They want expert translators to kind of mentor them. And there is a lack of that. It's like there's not enough platform. We are not being able to give, according to the demand, like however much is asking. And I believe the problem that we are facing right now. And like Rifat also said that publisher and writer, the translators, there is a gap somewhere. And the number of collections, the number of books that are being published, I would say that I think we have more translators than that, but it's still, not enough publications are being made. And another last thing that I would like to say is, the publication houses in Bangladesh, most of them, their market is Bangladesh, even for English books. We have no connection to the outer world. Get our books out there. And that's one big thing that has. I think our time has stopped too. Do we have any more time, or is it?
No. Thank you, madam, thank you all the participants of this session. Now we have to start another session, so we have a sort of time. Thanks all the audiences and all the participants on behalf of Sahitya Akademi and SAARC Writers Association. Thank you.